This is big breaking news. Fighter jets have been scrambled to deal with a U.S. American Airlines commercial plane. We are also having multiple different emergency situations with planes flying from California and also having airspaces shut down due to warships. So let's get into all the details here really quick, guys. Please just hit that like and hit that subscribe. I'm posting every day, keeping you guys updated on this big news, and it just helps to get these alerts out. I appreciate that. So this is what's going on right now. All right, we have multiple stories. We have emergency situations on planes from Los Angeles to Sydney. We have warships shutting down airspace in parts of Australia and New Zealand, and we also have fighter jets being scrambled for a U.S. American Airlines commercial plane that left JFK Airport. All right, this is big news. There was a quote bomb threat that happened on a plane that left New York City from JFK International Airport, and it had to be diverted and intercepted by fighter jets due to a quote bomb threat. All right, this plane was actually intercepted over Italy and landed in Rome. This plane left New York City and was flying to India. All right, and on the way, while it was flying over Europe, there was a quote bomb threat incident, and multiple different fighter jets from the Italian Air Force intercepted this plane. And this is a U.S. plane. This is an American Airlines commercial plane. All right, I want you to listen to this news right here really quick, and then we will also get into these other stories as well too. There was an emergency on a flight out of Los Angeles, and airspace is being shut down too. Listen to this really quick.
A big scare on an American Airlines flight today. The plane took off from JFK Airport in New York, headed for New Delhi, India, when it was abruptly diverted to Rome. You see here a couple of Italian fighter jets following that plane as it's on its way into Da Vinci Airport in Rome. The threat was later deemed non-credible after the plane landed safely. CB Cotton, live from our New York City newsroom with more on that. CB.
Hi, John. Well, as you mentioned, this reported bomb threat was deemed non-credible, so that's the good news in this scary situation. You know, you've got to think about how passengers felt, the nearly 200 passengers and 15 crew members on board, because once the American Airlines plane entered into Italian airspace, two fighter jets were tailing the plane. Take a look. These are newly released photos and videos showing what some passengers could likely see as those Italian Air Force fighter jets escorted the American Airlines Boeing 787-9 Dreamliner to its landing at Leonardo da Vinci International Airport in Rome. And here's another view from inside the fighter jet's cockpit. The American Airlines flight had departed from New York's John F. Kennedy International Airport last night and was bound for India's capital, New Delhi, according to the FAA, which says the flight had to be diverted to Rome after the crew reported the issue. American Airlines says the flight will now stay overnight in Rome so the crew can get its required rest. And as soon as possible tomorrow, the plane will continue on to New Delhi, India. Again, thankfully, this reported bomb threat is non-credible. We want to show you another view of the passenger plane tailed by those Italian warplanes. This is just so fascinating to watch. This is right before it was about to land in Rome. And here's a closer look at that landing, which took place at around 5:30 local time in Italy. We know this follows a series of aviation disasters here in the United States. So thankfully, now those passengers and that flight crew on board, they are likely breathing a sigh of relief. John.
And one expects that Kash Patel's FBI is already on the hunt for whoever phoned in that phony bomb threat. And let's hope they catch him. CB Cotton. Thanks, CB.
All right, so you heard that there. That was some more information. Apparently, it wasn't somebody that was on the plane. It was apparently a threat that was phoned in. Somehow somebody got this information to the plane. to make this threat while they were over Italian airspace. All right, so nobody was arrested yet, because when I first heard the story, I was expecting somebody to be arrested once they landed on the ground, but that's not what happened. And they are trying to figure out exactly what's going on. All right, so it's just another thing, honestly. What's going on with the planes? It's kind of weird, concerning. You remember that plane last week? I believe it landed in Toronto. That was upside down, right, on the runway. Spun around, landed hard, started spinning, and ended up upside down. Insane. All right, this keeps happening. What's going on? Is there something bigger going on behind the scenes, or are we just noticing this stuff more? Let me know what you guys think down below. I think it could be a little bit of both. I think there could be something going on, and I think maybe we're just noticing these things too, because these things have been so extreme, right? It's hard to ignore them. We also had an emergency situation with a Delta flight from Los Angeles. It made a emergency landing due to smoke on board. This was a Delta flight from Los Angeles International Airport bound for Sydney, Australia on Saturday, and it was forced to return after smoke was detected on board. It says the flight, which took off shortly after 9 p.m., returned to LAX around 30 minutes later, according to FlightAware. Right, and one of these things, these like really long international flights are just one of these things. It's hard to get over. At least for me, you're on this plane for. Let me know down below if you've been on these flights before. I know it's common. People do it every day, and it's safe. But what if this fire happened, the smoke happened, when they were already 6 hours into the flight, right? 12 hours in, and there's nowhere really to go. You're out in the middle of the ocean. Maybe you could land in Hawaii, maybe some random island, Guam, something along these lines. But where are you going to go, right, if this situation happens in the middle of the ocean, right? That's something that I always think about. It says the Airbus A350-900 aircraft landed safely and the plane proceeded to an arrival gate. It says 162 passengers on board are being reaccommodated to a different flight. So, smoke on the plane, inside the plane, had to turn around. And we also are having this other situation where airspace is being shut down. They're telling planes to avoid certain areas. And I thought this was relevant as well, too, because this plane from Los Angeles was flying to Sydney, Australia. And then check this out, all right? Commercial flights have been diverted near Australia and New Zealand after Chinese warships began a surprise live fire exercise. It says commercial flight paths between Australia and New Zealand have been disrupted after Chinese warships began preparing to fire live ammunition as part of an apparent military exercise. All right, so this was unannounced. This happened, and this caused disruptions and diversions for flights in the area. It says 3 People's Liberation Army Navy vessels have traversed the Australian coastline for the past week with no indication of motive and came within 150 nautical miles of Sydney on February 19th. It says several flights have been rerouted, including Qantas and Emirates aircraft, following the advice that the Chinese party warships have been, quote, live firing in international waters on February 21st. Quote, as a precaution, we have advised airlines with flight plans in the area to avoid the area. This is what the Air Services of Australian spokesperson is saying. Quote, we're also working together to coordinate advice to operators and pilots. So this is affecting people flying to Australia as well too, and this could happen anywhere, right? These unannounced drills can happen and shut down airspace, and do happen, but especially in places like Australia, New Zealand, they are close to China over there, so they're more likely to have these things happen closer to them. So let me know what you guys think down below. Please just hit it up for me down there. It helps to get these warnings out so people know what's going on with our aircraft, with our planes. Right? It's hard to even remember all the things that have happened. Okay, remember the Black Hawk helicopter in Washington D.C. that crashed into that plane, right? Remember that F-35 jet in Alaska at that military base that just fell out of the sky, right? There was also that other plane in Philadelphia. You remember that one? That one was wild. It almost looked like a missile or something, the way it came down so quick. I'm not saying it was, but the trajectory and the angle and the velocity, everything. Okay, it was very intense and extreme and blew a big hole in the ground, and the plane was like obliterated. You really couldn't even, there were like scraps of the plane laying around, but it like exploded. And I think it had oxygen tanks, something along those lines, inside of the plane. That one was kind of like memory hold. I feel like kind of just swept under the rug, at least for me. It's one that I almost forgot about until just now, off the top of my head, trying to remember all these incidences. And then we had this other plane in Toronto that landed hard, very smacked, and then started bouncing, and then kind of flipped over and started spinning, and the wings broke off, and the wings are where the fuel is held, and it caught on fire, and people were just sitting there upside down in their chairs in the plane, right? That's what was reported. Now this, right, this threat, there was smoke in this plane. There was also that other plane that was flying to Alaska from, I believe it was Washington or Oregon, where the door ripped off. Okay, just a few months ago, you remember that too? The door just flew off while people were flying the emergency exit door. So what's going on here? Right, something's just weird. I'm not sure exactly what's happening. Is there like sabotage going on? Is there somebody inside of these companies? And a lot of these planes that's been happening to have been Boeing planes as well too. Is there just like an issue with them, like their staff, their hiring process, behind the scenes? They're not vetting people properly. They're not paying people enough to do the job right, to get the right people in there that actually care. They're actually going to do it right. I don't know. I'm not sure what's happening. Is there some type of sabotage going on? Infiltrators that have gotten into like certain companies and certain positions that are like sabotaging, allowing things to happen? Is it just an incompetence crisis for our country, and this is going to be our future, where the infrastructure is just like falling apart and is not being properly maintained at the level it needs to be? I'm not sure. There's like multiple different things that could be going on. Let me know what you think down below, your theory. Hope you guys are staying safe, staying prepared out there, staying stocked up. I hope you have big blessings for your life and your family, and I hope you have a big old blessed day.